Did Bruce Lee really join a gang when he was growing up to protect him from being bullied? Is there any truth to the stories about the countless street fights with the British kids that pushed him into joining a gang when he was young? Today, we're going to separate the facts from the fiction as we explore the real story behind Bruce Lee's childhood of street fighting and why he joined a gang. What's up, y'all? My name is Prince and this is Goldenbell Training. This is a new series of videos where we're going to be taking a look at some of the real stories that have gone into building up the myths behind the legend of Bruce Lee. Today, we're going to peel away the layers of the Hollywood story of Bruce Lee so that we can uncover the truth. We're taking a look at Bruce Lee's childhood in this video. Now, if you've only heard the polished, made for the movies version of the story, then you probably believe that Bruce Lee was a victim of childhood bullying by British students because of his Chinese heritage, and that this bullying at the hands of the British led him to find protection in a gang. But that's not actually what happened. Now, it is true that Bruce Lee faced more than just some teasing on the playground. He really was teased, and he really did join a gang known as the Junction Street Tigers, but the Hollywood version of this story, it is not true at all. The truth behind Bruce Lee forming a gang, it's even more interesting than the version that they tell in all the movies. So Bruce Lee was a product of both the East and the West in that he was born in a Chinatown hospital in San Francisco in the United States while his father, Li Hui Chin, was touring the US with a Chinese opera troupe in 1940. At the age of 3 months, his parents returned to Hong Kong in the middle of World War II. Hong Kong at the time was under Japanese occupation, and the Japanese occupation of China was pretty brutal, and the harsh treatment and the malnourishment that was taking place took a long time for many people in Hong Kong to recover. Bruce Lee was one of the people impacted by the conditions of the Japanese occupation of Hong Kong, and by the time that he started school, well, he was small for his age and he was extremely nearsighted. So he was this tiny kid who wore extremely thick glasses. He was also hyperactive to the point that his nickname was Never Sit Still. He also became a target for bullies. Well, that is, until he started to fight back. Now, something that a lot of people don't know about Bruce Lee in his youth is that he found solace and inspiration in the vibrant pages of comic books and the thrilling narratives of wuxia novels. These stories were not just escapism for him. They were a mirror reflecting his innermost desires and aspirations. See, Bruce saw himself as the valiant hero, similar to the characters that he admired fighting against injustice and defending the weak in his comic books and wuxia stories. Bruce's friends, recognizing his leadership and protective nature, they referred to him as Big Brother, a title that Bruce wore with pride and a sense of duty. Now look, y'all, the whole Big Brother thing might not make a lot of sense to people in the West who aren't that familiar with Asian culture, but calling someone Big Brother, it basically means that you're acknowledging them as your senior. Now look, y'all, I don't want to romanticize Bruce Lee too much because he was also a bit of a knucklehead back then when he was a kid. He was always getting into trouble, he was always fighting, and he was always doing things in school for attention, but he was always willing to stick up for his little brothers in his gang. There's one particularly funny story about Bruce sticking up for his friends where Bruce and his friend, they tried to sneak into a movie. His friend was caught by the usher, and the usher actually gave his friend a spanking. The next day, Bruce went to settle the score with the usher, so he and his friend brought some food as an apology. But what the usher didn't know was that Bruce added laxatives to the food. Well, not long after finishing the food, the usher went to the men's room because, well, you know what's up, he had a clear case of the bubble guts by that point. Now, the only problem is that, well, Bruce and his friend were waiting for him in the men's room, and as soon as the usher started to, drop a deuce, well, the boys dropped firecrackers into the stall where the usher was dropping his deuce in peace. Well, not anymore.
There's shit everywhere!
So Bruce wanted to send a message from a very early age that you do not mess with his friends. Well, even though Bruce enjoyed reading comic books and playing pranks and running off to defend his little brothers on the schoolyard, his childhood wasn't just about living out his heroic fantasies. It also unfolded during a time of profound political upheaval. Not long after the conclusion of World War II and the Japanese occupation of Hong Kong, 1949 saw the rise of Mao Zedong in China, which sent waves of refugees into Hong Kong, transforming the city into a cauldron of diverse, desperate masses that was ripe for the Triads' influence. As the city's youth grappled with the pressures of survival and identity, some young people found themselves with no other choice than to join the Triads for some sense of security. Bruce and his companions, despite their relatively privileged status, found themselves in the crosshairs of this tumultuous environment. Their association with the world of acting and their upper middle class standing, it made them prime targets, not just for schoolyard bullies, but for triads that were seeking to bolster their ranks or to enhance their reputation. See, for kids like Bruce and his friends, the triads were actively looking to recruit them. Bruce was a popular child actor, Li Shulong, or Little Dragon Lee. That was his stage name. His friends, they were also upper middle class, and they were connected to the acting business as well. If a triad were able to successfully recruit someone like them, well, it would make the triad look good. But on the other hand, if some young, low-ranking kid was able to beat up Bruce or one of his friends or publicly humiliate them, well, it might improve their status within their particular triad. So Bruce was dealing with pressure to either join the triad or get beaten up by some kid his own age who wanted to be seen more than just some kid who's running errands within the triad. And well, in this crucible of early life challenges, Bruce's decision to align with the Junction Street Eight Tigers was a testament to the complexity of his environment. It wasn't just about rebellion or seeking thrills. It was a strategic move for protection, a response to the unspoken rules of survival in a city where the shadows of triad influence loomed large over its youth. Bruce's gang involvement was a nuanced chapter in his life, intertwined with the socio-political currents of his time. So like I said, it is true that Bruce Lee was in a gang when he grew up in Hong Kong, but let's set the record straight about this gang involvement. To view Bruce's actions through a modern lens of today, equating his gang with today's organized crime syndicates would be a gross misinterpretation. The gangs of Bruce Lee's era, especially among school children, were more akin to groups of friends that were banding together for mutual protection and to hang out. They weren't the nefarious entities that we might imagine today. Yes, Bruce did find himself in some scuffles, and yes, they sometimes involved weapons like bike chains and pocket knives, but these were not the hallmarks of a hardened criminal. They were the struggles of a young boy navigating the turbulent waters of his environment and just doing the whole teenage rebellion thing. But let's get this straight. Bruce Lee didn't get jumped into the Royal Knights. He wasn't a vice lord. He didn't claim any sets. And he wasn't gangbanging all over Kowloon City. Now, something to consider since we're on the topic of Bruce Lee's youth, these early experiences sculpted the Bruce Lee who would later go on to captivate the world, and it's crucial to recognize the continuity in the narrative of his life. See, the role of protector, the big brother, it didn't just vanish after Bruce left Hong Kong in 1959. It evolved, becoming a defining trait of his character. Whether through this leadership among peers in Seattle or his mentorship of stuntmen and actors in Hong Kong later in his life, Bruce consistently embodied this role. In future videos, we'll discuss those parts of Bruce Lee's life and how the role of Big Brother was an ongoing theme throughout his life. But I want to go back to what I was saying about Bruce forming his gang as protection against the Triads. See, Bruce's fighting and all of his antics were probably a form of rebellion, but the predatory advances of the Triads were a real problem. This isn't some fanboyism claiming that Bruce was fighting against Triads. This was a real threat. Most Bruce Lee fans know that Bruce was expelled from LaSalle Academy, a very prestigious school for Eurasian students to attend in Hong Kong. But what most fans don't know is what exactly led to Bruce being expelled. And the truth is that, well, there's a number of events that led up to his expulsion. And one of them, it was actually because of a fight with the Triads. Well, the story that I heard, it came from Bruce Lee's teacher. And in this story, Bruce got into a fight with a classmate. And after school, a group of Triad members showed up outside the school looking for Bruce.
He really knocked out son of one of the triad chiefs, and they were after him.
Bruce ran from him and he hid in the teacher's lounge.
And they were standing around the table just waiting to say grace. And in dashed Bruce, around the table twice and fit straight into the telephone room and locked himself in.
And this story is significant for two reasons. It proves that Bruce really did have beef with some Triad members for beating up an influential Triad member's son or a relative, and also because it eventually led to his expulsion from LaSalle Academy. That's a significant moment because it's around the time that he started attending St. Francis Xavier that he was formally training in Wing Chun with Yip Man. But hey, that's a story that we'll have to dive into at another time. So here's a question for you guys. Well, what did you think about the truths that we've uncovered today? Did they change your perspective on Bruce Lee? Hey, comment below with your reflections and hey man, let a brother know what you're thinking. Also, hey, be on the lookout for the next chapter in our look at the real stories behind the legends of Bruce Lee. In our next installment, we're going to delve into another pivotal moment in Bruce's life. We're going to explore the complexities of his relationship with Yip Man and what led to Bruce Lee studying Wing Chun in the first place. So don't miss out on the next chapter of our journey into the heart of a legend, where we continue to separate the myth from reality, bringing you guys closer to the man behind the myths. And on that note, hey, y'all keep training, remember to breathe, and come back and see me on the next video.